Welcome to another fun-filled Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brownhead. That's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80, SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow Makina McGee on the Twitter and Makina Score again, the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. Also, too, you can catch up on our other live shows we have airing throughout the week. So, happen to miss them, you can watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, make sure to follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. And you want to know about our podcast? I'm glad you asked. You can follow us at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, that's at War Media, WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions and comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid, I've given Lakina full power to give you fools the beer lane beer boot.
Bye-bye.
But before we begin, we must remind you, you also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku TV, that's okay. You have a bunch of handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your personal PC like Lakina's using right now with dial-up. Sorry. Just kidding about the dial-up. Or your Chromebook like I'm using right now. Just go to that Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app and download Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad again with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV.
Anytime, anywhere, whether you use dial-up or in my case, I actually have a cable modem, a DSL. So whatever type of internet you use, or 4G, 5G, whatever, it's all there for you.
And we will provide.
All right, we got a little show here coming up for you on Second City Sports. Of course, we'll recap. We're going to recap the NBA Finals first. Of course, we'll talk about this week in baseball. Good showing for the Cubs, not so good showing for the White Sox. We got John Zaghloul.
Yeah, John Zaghloul.
Zaghloul, I think that's how you say his name. From the Sports Talk Chicago podcast. He'll join us to talk some of the latest happenings in and around Chicago sports. Also, too, we're going to congratulate another champion, the Vegas Golden Knights, and a whole lot more. So we got a lot to do in this, a little less than about an hour and then like 2 hours, maybe a little under 2 hours. But we're going to talk about the NBA Finals. Of course, Denver wins his first title ever in his franchise history, beating the Miami Heat in 5 games. Of course, Djokovic, Nikola Jokic, of course, he wins MVP honors. Not a big surprise because the first player to average double figures in both points, assists, and rebounds, and all the other numbers that just too much for me to have to mention. But I'm sure you guys know because this happened on Wednesdays. Because Jokic becomes the first player drafted outside the top 15 to win both Finals MVP and regular season MVP. Of course, he's done it twice. Christian Brown is just a fifth player to win a national title. He won one with Kansas last year. And, of course, now an NBA title with the Nuggets in the consecutive years, joining guys like Billy Thompson, Magic Johnson, Henry Bibby, and Bill Russell. So that's a pretty impressive list there. And I think I pretty much covered like the main part of it. I mean, just a really solid showing. I know that we can get into a whole thing about this is a start of a dynasty or whatever. But so what do you think about the finals in that clincher?
Denver was tested very mildly on their home court. The pressure was on them to close out that series against Miami. They came the pressure came to a head once they took the lead late in the fourth quarter. Denver showed you what they were made of. Of course, they didn't have a typical Denver Nuggets game. They didn't score over 100 points. They shot the ball at a 17% clip from three-point range. It was the little things that got it done, and they went to their man, Nikolai Jokic. Like you said, we could talk about the numbers with him all day, but his impact on the floor made a difference for the rest of those guys. As you mentioned, we talked about it all throughout these playoffs, throughout these finals, and you saw it again one more time. The Denver Nuggets did the little things when they needed it most. On the flip side for Miami, you saw fatigue start to set in with them. They just didn't have the firepower to match with the Denver Nuggets. They have heart, they have grit, but they just didn't have the talent or the firepower to match with the Denver Nuggets. Once again, congratulations to Denver for winning their first NBA title, the first time in their franchise 47-year history. The Miami Heat, I believe, will be back again, but they need to add another starter to go along with Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I think, and unfortunately, Jimmy picked the wrong time. He missed a 3-pointer. He had a inexplicable turnover too. Just when you thought that Miami actually had a chance to win the game, we probably previewing like a game 7 right now, but this weekend. But it is what it is. And look, unfortunately, Jimmy did get a lot of help. I mean, it was just. It's just the help just wasn't there for Jimmy, and Jimmy, of course, went back to being the ordinary Jimmy that we saw in the regular season. There was no playoff Jimmy. He, like I said, he had a couple of major mistakes. That last few minutes. I mean, look, I'll give Denver credit. I mean, like they've been a dominant team, but this is gonna be one of those runs where they didn't have to face number 2 seed or 3 seed. I mean, I think they only faced 2 7s and 2 8 seeds. I know. Look, I get it. They can only face who's presented in front of them, but you also have to wonder that. You know what? I mean, you didn't really play some of the best teams. I mean, you didn't play, Memphis because of various issues. We'll get to that in a bit. You didn't have to face Phoenix because of course, their issues.
No, they beat Phoenix handily.
Well, yeah, they did beat Phoenix handily, but again, they didn't have CP3. That was my point before you interrupted me.
My apologies.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Golden State, of course, they didn't have to face Golden State. So yeah, their path to play to the championship wasn't dire. So they only lost what 2 or 3 games the whole playoffs. So I could kind of understand why some folks are kind of like, okay, you know what? I don't want to say they were lucky, but they didn't really have to. I don't want to say the path was easy, but they really didn't have to face some of the top teams. And look, that's not their fault, but to hear Mike Malone, his brain is still like, I guess he's on Lakers watch. Like he keeps mentioning LeBron, and look, you're getting to the point where you won, you beat the Lakers. Who cares? Like you won. I mean, okay, yeah, you want to talk mess, fine. But the thing is that with the NBA, they have very long memories, especially certain players, especially that guy LeBron here that you keep referring to. They're going to remember all this, and you have a target on your backs for next season. So let's see. And I know people are going to say, well, this may be like the Spurs. Like we already said like a couple of days ago, could they be the new Spurs? But let's let them win a couple of championships first before we start talking about them being the Spurs.
To all those people that are listening and watching us right now, the majority of winning teams, I don't care what sport you're talking about, sometimes you get lucky breaks. Yes, you do have to have talent at the end of the day to win. Yes, you have to execute, but sometimes you have breaks that will go your way sometimes, and you have sometimes some breaks that go against you. That's just sports, and that's just life in general. So if you're the Denver Nuggets, you don't have to apologize for the run that you had. You won the title fair and square. You earned it. You have the best player in the league right now, and you finished at the top. Like you mentioned a couple minutes ago, all those teams, with the exception of the Minnesota Timberwolves in that first round, all those teams, if they were healthy, they probably could have beaten Denver. But when push came to shove, the circumstances were what they were, and Denver stood tall and conquered the Dragons. So if you're a Nuggets fan, you shouldn't have to apologize for this. And they were the best team in the West from late December on. They played like it through the playoffs. They answered the bell, and they're the champions. That's all that needs to be said.
Well, yeah, that's true too. But like you just said, Sid, I mean, a lot of those teams that you mentioned weren't well. The team was aside because they just they barely got in. But the Lakers weren't all 100%. I mean, Phoenix wasn't 100%. who knows if Tyler Hero would have been there, who knows what would have happened. But look, I mean, yeah, you get lucky breaks, but again, people are going to look at you and say, well, you benefited from some of the breaks that you get. So yeah, sometimes it's good to get those breaks, but at the same time, though, like people are going to be wondering, like you wouldn't be able to beat those teams at full strength. I think that's the whole thing with some folks, or that's why some people are feeling the way they do. But look, they got the best player in the league right now in Jokic. However you feel about his attitude, and like, look, he was reacting like like it was like a Christmas game or something, like against the Phoenix. Okay, fine, but again, if that's how he feels about it, hey, that's his prerogative. But again, you got the bigger target on your back now, so. Yeah, look, I'm happy for Jeff Green, of course, everything he went through. Of course, he had heart surgery in '08. He was, there was actually some drugs that he probably wouldn't be able to play again. Okay, he got his first title. You're happy for him. You're happy for DeAndre Jordan. People forget that he's on the team. People forget about that, but he gets his ring. Colin Gillespie. I mean, from Villanova, won a championship there some years back. Thomas Bryant from also from Indiana, Bruce Brown. I mean, of course, Christian Brown, Reggie Jackson. I mean, he's been around for a minute. He finally gets his first title. So yeah, you feel for Jamal Murray, of course, after everything he's went through with injuries and such. Yes, a big part of he's definitely a Batman to Robert to Nikola Jokic's Batman. So Michael Porter Jr., of course, his struggles and such with various injuries too. I mean, look, you're happy for those guys. I mean, look, they get their ring. Denver. Unfortunately, they acted like fools. A couple of fools. Really acted like, especially at the parade too, especially. But I won't go there. But look, which is weird because it's not that Denver. It's not the first time Denver has won a title. I mean, this one last year with the Avs. So I'm like, with Colorado. So like, what really? But yeah. Other than that, I mean, look, you congrats them, and look, they deserve it, and we'll see if they can repeat, because that's going to be the next question.
Yep. Can the Nuggets repeat? We'll see what happens starting next season. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Friday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. I will not interrupt Lakina ever again.
It's fine. It's fine. I mean, look, it's okay.
But we will have to get to this. Speaking of next season, we do have to discuss this before we have a few minutes left before we break for the bottom of the hour. John Morant, the star point guard for the Memphis Grizzlies, he was suspended for 8 games right before this year's playoffs. He came back, and then he was caught on Instagram again toting the gun. This time he said the gun was fake. And now the news came out late Friday morning that he's been suspended by Commissioner Adam Silver for 25 games in the start of the 2023-24 season. Lakina, many people thought, and I thought this for a while, that he was going to be suspended for a whole year. I think I said at the beginning he might get that 25 to 30 games, but I think this was I think this is a correct move for Adam Silver, only because you didn't want to have to go and back and forth battle with the players union. Yeah, I know you wanted to come down hard, but he didn't want to have to go back and forth with the players union. You had to set the tone, but you didn't want to overdo it to make the leaders of the players union upset.
And I'm sorry, see, I just interrupted Sid just now. So see, it's a Wi-Fi thing, folks. My apologies, Sid. We're bigger people here. But yeah, going back to John's suspension, I mean, look, I've heard some folks say that, I think you said it too, that he's going to do half a season, but they really couldn't justify doing that. Like you said, Sid, I mean, they wanted to keep peace with the union, and apparently, I guess I'm talking about Adam Silver, got a little recommendations from the union, and I think another thing he has to do is he has to do like some type of treatment program, mental treatment program or something. So I guess this definitely was probably the best. I guess this was the best thing. I guess this is to kind of, like I said, keep the peace with the players union, and also too with everything else. So, but the one thing that has bothered me is that people are saying, "Oh, Ja's young and whatever." Look, he's 23 years old. You're an adult. This was different if he was like 18, 19 years old. Fresh out of played in college or prep school or whatever. Went to the NBA. If he was doing that, this was like when he was 18 or 19, or when he first came to the league when he was 20. I would have been fine with it, but you're 23. You're an adult. You know what you're doing. Adults know right from wrong. Fake gun or not, you know that people are going to be looking at you and, the stupid things that you do. Is it a mental thing with Ja? I don't know. Like, I'm glad he's getting some treatment with that. but he needs to get his you know what together, because if not, this is going to be an issue for the NBA. And I think that's why I was so afraid he had to step in, because this is becoming an image issue, and I think that's the one that the NBA does not want.
Yeah, and we saw that even though this was a whole nother situation with the Malice at the Palace many years ago. Remember, the late great Commissioner David Stern had to change the dress code for a while with those players. I know people didn't like that. I got both sides of the argument. We won't go through that again here, but it was an image issue, and they were really worried about their sponsors at the time. But regarding Ja Morant, as I said before, hopefully he gets some help. I'm rooting for him, but he needs to take accountability for his own actions. Whether people and/or family members, we know, looking at some family members can get crazy too, because those players that come from those situations, not Ja Morant in particular with the poverty, he didn't grow up in poverty from what I know of, but people that are breadwinners for their whole families, you got family members that act up after they get the money. They think they're entitled to the money, and they wild out worse than the players that get the money. So my point is this: hopefully, Ja Morant sees the mistake for his actions. I think he does already, at least from an economic standpoint, because he lost the contract with Nike, and I think Gatorade, whoever Powerade has pulled away from him as well. So, and he's not going to get paid for the first 25 games of next year, and that's predetermined about if he meets the certain conditions from the commission before he returns to play. So he's feeling it right now as far as from an economic standpoint, but hopefully he sees this as a life turning point for his life, and whoever needs to be around him needs to be the right people around him, including family, because yes, people can lead you down the wrong path. He needs somebody in his camp to tell him, hey, this is not the right thing to do. Let you stay on the right road and make the best decisions. And he has to take a self accountability for his own actions as well.
Well, yeah, just to correct you, no, not to correct you, but Nike decided, has said they're not going to tuck ties with Ja.
Okay.
But Coca-Cola, I guess they did pull a commercial from when that incident, that the latest incident first came out. Now I haven't heard anything about them pulling that, but pulling him entirely. But yeah, I mean, like you said, Sid, I mean, it's whether it's his dad or whoever. I know I think he's the only child, or maybe he might be the oldest. I don't know, but something has to give with this, and I think he needs to wake up and realize that he can't be doing what he's doing. And look, I know people say it's hard to take the street out of somebody, but at the same time, I mean, you just can't use that as an excuse. Your upbringing as an excuse anymore. You just can't. I mean, turn it around and perhaps maybe look, Memphis has a lot of issues. I know we talk about Chicago at times. We won't get into that, but Memphis has a big issue with guns. Maybe he could be, I suppose, put for an anti-gun or campaign or whatever. I mean, there are lots of ways that Ja can do with this, and perhaps maybe even beyond basketball, just try to kind of get his stuff together, and just maybe somebody needs to kind of come in and say, look, what you're doing is wrong, and it's not just this is about your life. Forget the basketball part. You're a father. I mean, you have to think about all that, and also the basketball part is just, I don't want to say a secondary, but it's sort of like a second or third part of it, but. Someone's got to come in and say, you know what, Ja, you need to eat a kick in the rear, and that's what you need.
Yeah, he has the eyes and the ears of a lot of people, a lot of young people in particular. If he does the right thing, he can influence a whole lot of people in far and parts beyond that he could ever imagine. So this is a big moment for him right here. I'm personally rooting for him, but he has to do the work like we all have to do the work to improve ourselves. So he's no different from you and me. It's just that he has cameras and people giving him attention 24 hours a day. But this is a big moment for him. I hope that he turns it around.
I hope he can figure it out as well. I've been a fan of his since he was at Murray State, so I'm hoping he can figure it out. But he needs to. It's on him now. He needs to get it going and wake up and be an adult.
Yeah.
Okay. On that note, we're gonna go take a quick break. We'll talk some baseball. Sweep for the Cubs against the Pirates. The Sox. Okay. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit, but of course, John Zaghloul from Sports Talk Chicago will also be joining us too at the top of the hour. So lots to do still. Second City Sports on Sports Talk Chicago. We go to Diamond coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what...
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Friday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You find my Kingdom Making on the Twitter and the IG.
We have less than 90 minutes left or so left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio show. You have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, let's go to the Diamond Sid this week. So an up and down, of course, just seems like as usual, the up and down part for our Chicago teams. Of course, we'll start with the Cubs. They swept the Pirates, and I don't think anybody saw that come. At least I don't think anybody did. Of course, in the latest game, Marcus Stroman from yesterday, Marcus Stroman pitched another gem. The Cubs beat the Pirates, sweeping them 7-2. And like I said, another gem from Stroman, 6 innings, only 2 runs, 5 strikeouts, and 2 walks. Amongst other, Christopher Morel continues to hit the ball. He had 3 hits and 2 runs batted, and also Cody Bellinger in his first game back, kind of picked up where he left off. He had RBI as well. Ian Happ had the go-ahead RBI as well for the Cubs, and we'll get to the rest of the division in a second. But look, I think the Cubs are starting to kind of get it going again. They're finding their rhythm. I think having Bellinger back will only help even more. Of course, Matt Mervis, because Bellinger's back. Matt Mervis got set down, but he'll be back soon. I have no doubt about that. But the pitching actually was pretty solid this week, and I'm a little surprised. I'm saying this. The bullpen was actually pretty decent for once. That's kind of a shocking thing. Haven't said that in the last couple months. Jameson Town actually had a solid start. And that first game, only six hits, but he had 4 strikeouts. He was able to get out a couple of jams. So, what do you think about the Cubs' performance this week?
Well, with the solid pitching performance, including Marcus Stroman's performance last night, at least through the first 2 games of that series, it helps when you score double-digit runs, 10 runs and 11 runs respectively. So you hope you'll get great pitching. That's what the Cubs got from their starters. As we said before, Lakina, we'll say it again, this Cubs team this year will be led by their starting pitcher, and we've seen that all year long. They just got to repair that bullpen and at least make that bullpen respectable. Now, on the flip side for that Cubs offense, as you mentioned, Christopher Morel looks like he's starting to show up again. He had 2 RBIs last night. Ian Happ also contributed with 2 RBIs. As you mentioned, Cody Bellinger's impact in that lineup will help this team, especially offensively. But I want to talk about Cody Bellinger's replacement for a moment, Mike Tauchman. I know some people were down on him, but I thought he did a nice enough job, slightly above average job while Bellinger was out. Going into last night's game, he was 5 of 9 against the Pirates in that series, including scoring 4 runs and 2 RBIs. So you talk about your superstars need to lead the team and set the example. Sometimes when your stars struggle, you need your other players, your other role players to pick it up, and that's what Mike Tauchman did in that series against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Tauchman was actually pretty solid in that series. I think he had like 3 RBIs in total in that whole series. I know Happ had a solid show. I think he had like 7 RBIs in total in that series, including 4 in that Monday game. Swanson was pretty good as well. So I think it's one of those days where it looks like they're gelling now. How long will it take? Can they keep it going? Look, it's hard to do in a long season, but we'll get to the rest of the divisions. The division's right there for them. It's right there. So I think if they can get the consistency going with both the pitching and the hitting, I think they'll be in good shape. Like you said.
Yeah, I agree. And with the Cubs, we'll get to the rest of the schedule at the end of this hour. But the Cubs have another tough test as they currently stand 3.5 games back of Pittsburgh as of this live broadcast, as they'll take on the Baltimore Orioles in about a half hour from now from Wrigley Field. And that's going to be another tough test. We talk about Baltimore. We'll get to what they did this week in a moment. But Baltimore is another solid young team with a heavy stacked lineup, and their starting pitching starting to come around as well. So it's not a mistake that they have one of the top 3 records in all of baseball, and definitely in the American League. So the Cubs have their work cut out for them. For Baltimore, you wiping your head a little bit because you don't have to face Marcus Stroman because he pitched last night, but you will have to face Cal Hendricks this weekend.
Yes, you did. They faced him today, actually. Cole Irwin has actually solid for the Orioles. So this could be a nice back and forth between 2 up-and-coming teams. So we'll see where they are. I mean, if you're the Cubs, I know sweeping the Orioles might be tough, but they could just win the series, win 2 out of 3. I think they'll be, maybe you can kind of say, okay, maybe this team has a shot perhaps taking the division. We'll see.
Yep. Let's head over to the West Coast, Lakina, where the White Sox are the Southsiders. I'm going to take all the words out of your mouth and let me say them for you. They had a chance to creep closer to the division title, but they pissed away a 4-0 lead. Dylan Cease looked good. Even though he let a couple of runners on in that 6th inning, he got pulled. Ronaldo Lopez, I love him, but he came in there and wet the bed. Chris Taylor hit a grand slam. Even though the bullpen did shine last night for the White Sox, you had opportunities in the last 3 innings to get a run home. You didn't do it. The Dodgers ended up winning the game 5-4 in 11 innings, taking the series 2 games out of 3. Lakina, I was really angry last night. Thank goodness I do not have the energy to destroy this computer. 1, I don't have the money to pay for another right now. And number 2, there's only so much you could say about this White Sox team. And they're lucky they're in that piss poor AL Central Division where they're still 5.5 back. Lakina, you don't have to say it. I'll say it for you. They have so many opportunities to get closer to the division lead. Looks like we may have to say it again, at least for the foreseeable future. But last night's game was so White Sox. You lead 4-0, even though all 4 runs came on via the solo home run. It looks like the offense wants to start to break out, but something bad happens, and I'm not going to say I can't take it anymore, but I don't know how much I can take.
And good night, everybody. I think you also kind of covered all of it. But look, I mean, look, that game last night, I actually stayed up to watch it, was definitely...
So did I. There's an hour and a half I can't get back.
Yeah, I mean, it was the pinnacle of the Sox season. You're up 4-0, and Cease actually pitched pretty well against a pretty solid lineup in the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, he let a couple runners on. Bullpen comes in, they blow that lead. Chris Harris grand slam, just like that. You're tied. They had a couple of chances in the later innings. Then, of course, I mean, Bummer actually pitched out of the jam, but then what happened is, of course, they load up, and of course, Freddie Freeman hits just a staunch over to center field. And I guess TA just didn't even bother getting it because it was basically it could have went away. But I mean, that pretty much covers the Sox season, I feel like. And look, this is why I've said to White Sox fans, not you, Sid, you personally, but other White Sox fans, when I say, oh, the White Sox are back, well, look what you saw in that series against the Dodgers. I mean, look, they have plenty of chance to perhaps even sweep the well, not sweep, but at least win the series. They weren't able to do that. So you pitch well against Clayton Kershaw. Of course, the irony is it was a nationally televised game. Yay, good for you. Look, Jake Burger, look. Yeah, I think he's definitely making a case for having a spot in the All-Star game, which he should. Well, we'll get to that, in a second, because they do face Seattle this week. That should be an interesting series. But for me, like I said, as the late, God rest his soul, the late great Diddy Greed always says, they are who you thought they were. And for anybody that thought this White Sox squad was gonna turn the corner, well, and look, guess what? Moncada's back on the DL. I swear, I think he and Eloy take turns. So who's gonna be on the DL first? I mean, it's just crazy. Look, so that means that Eloy's gonna be back on the DL in about a week or two. So get ready for that. But whatever, it is what it is. But yeah, it's like I said. They're comical. The AL Central's comical, and that's all I gotta say.
If it was, here's another old saying: if it wasn't for bad luck, you wouldn't have any luck at all. Mike Clevenger was actually pitching well on a Wednesday, and then his biceps decided to give out. I thought it was much worse that he popped an elbow or popped a shoulder, something to that effect. Thank goodness, as we know right now, is a right biceps injury. Hopefully, he's okay. But I say, if it wasn't for one bad thing, anyway, I lost train of thought on that. But hopefully Mike Clevenger is okay. But of course, the trainer had to come out again last night for Garrett Crochet. Thank goodness they went back down. But hopefully it's nothing worse with him, because he was the pitcher on the mound. They gave up the run last night. He was actually pitching well up to that point, the 10th inning, but the 11th inning just came unraveling. But the White Sox still have a chance. Even though it's not the greatest chance, they still have a chance. I know they face your Mariners this weekend, Lakina, and the Mariners haven't done well this year either. You thought they were starting to get back to 500. They're currently one game under, but it's been a struggle for them as well. So I'm not going to say this series is a process of elimination, but it seems that way, given the way both these teams have played so far this year. But for the White Sox, it looks like they're starting to come out of it in spurts offensively. But like we said, they're starting pitching. And the bullpen, outside a couple of gaps last night, has actually been pretty good outside of that Marlins series last weekend. So, as we said before, the White Sox are consistently inconsistent. Can they turn us around? Of course they can. Will they is the damn question. I feel much angrier saying that than last year. Comical. You see a trending problem here? I do.
Well, yeah. Well, like I said, it's comical. I mean, look. I mean, sure, the Sox still got a shot to win the division. Of course they do. But like I said, I don't believe in them. I don't believe that they can, just because of the consistencies of it. I'm sorry, I don't. They haven't given me a shot. Yeah, you saw some spurts in that in that Wednesday game against Kershaw. Mm-hmm. Okay. But then, you do stupid things like, a dropped fly ball, or the bullpen sticking it up. I mean, this team has not given me any reason to hope. So, this is why I say I'm keeping my expectations over the Sox team. If they win a division, come back, great. But yeah, they're going to get their butts kicked by either a Baltimore or a Yankees, or, if Houston makes it, I don't have no faith in this team. I don't. But, like I said, it is what it is with them. So, we'll see what happens. As this is Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown with you. We're going to talk talking more baseball here in this next few minutes. What caught your a lot of stuff caught my eye, but I'll start with you. What caught your eye this week in the rest of MLB?
Oh, the Oakland Athletics. I know their 7-game winning streak ended yesterday, but I want to talk about Tuesday's game for a moment. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the game or watch the highlights, but their fans came to the game in protest, peaceful protest from what I saw. It was a reversed protest game. I think all the proceeds from that game went to the Oakland A's community charities, from what I read and heard. But during the 5th inning, after I forgot the Tampa Bay hitter's name, Walt, all the Oakland fans in that stadium stood up and said, "Sell the team, sell the team." Yeah, that chant got started here in Chicago with the White Sox. I wish some White Sox fans could do the same thing. We'll see about that down the road. But the Oakland fans made their voices heard. They got all the national attention, both locally and nationally. And until yesterday, the Oakland A's team has been playing very well, but we all know that they're going through a rebuild right now, just like a few other bottom feeder teams like Cincinnati, even though they were on game under 500, in Kansas City. Those Oakland fans really made their voices heard, and now the Nevada governor that signed the legislation to get some money to try to build a new stadium in Las Vegas. So, and of course, Oakland is there at that dump. Now they turned the beautiful baseball park into a dump, partially thanks to the Oakland Raiders moving back there in '95. But they turned the original baseball stadium to a dump. And I know their lease is up after next season. So I really feel for those Oakland fans, but they really made themselves proud for the most part on Tuesday with their protests in the stands during that game against Tampa.
Yeah, I saw that, and look, they split their series with Tampa. I think they have a lot to be proud of there. They actually split their series, actually won that game during that whole thing. I mean, look, it's good to see. Look, your fans got every right to make your voices heard. Doesn't mean it's going to change anyone's mind. I mean, you can try, but yeah, I mean, look, over the years, yes, that place has been unfortunately a dumpster fire. It's probably one of the worst. It was one of the best. Now it's one of the worst ballparks in baseball now. And look, I mean, look, you did what you could. I mean, look, you made some headlines, great, but nothing was going to change. I mean, they're going to go to Vegas. The Nevada governor already signed legislation, putting some money in, state money from that new stadium. But okay, I mean, look, you got your headlines, but like I said, I mean, it really didn't do too much. So, I mean, I really don't get what was the point of this. I mean, you were going to the games beforehand. I mean, that's not helping your cause either. So like I'm kind of like figured it was counterproductive on these A's fans' part. But look, I mean they should be proud of what they did. But like I said, I mean it didn't really do anything. But it is what it is. Again.
Also, too, for the world of baseball this week, of course, the Baltimore Orioles, who are taking on the Chicago Cubs this weekend as we speak. They take 2 out of 3 for the Toronto Blue Jays, including winning the series finale 4-2 yesterday. Also, too, the Philadelphia Phillies, they win their series, their game against the Arizona Diamondbacks yesterday. So they're back to 500, as we told you guys. The Philadelphia Phillies, they're starting to come along right now, and they're getting some great starting pitching with Zaghloul, Kyle Schwarber's bat is starting to wake up, and Trey Turner as well. So Philadelphia, you better watch out for them. So they're really coming up on the prowl right now. I want to get to this game from last night, going back to the American League. The Anaheim Angels and the Texas Rangers. Of course, Anaheim ends up winning the game 5-3. It was a great pitching matchup between Shohei Ohtani and Nathan Eovaldi. Of course, Shohei Ohtani hit another home run last night. Another sneaky team, the Anaheim Angels, looking at they're not going away. I believe they're 7 to 8 games over 500. They've beat a really very good Texas Rangers team who currently lead the AL West division.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the Angels have been pretty solid, even though Mike Trout has had a good June so far. So, we'll see if they can keep it up. Like I said, I mean, like I said, wait till the end of the month before I start taking some of these teams like the Angels, like the Diamondbacks. We'll get to them in a second. I'm kind of like right there. Look, I mean, what they've been doing is nothing but great. And we know Shohei's doing Shohei things, both hitting and pitching. But like I said, I mean, look, let's wait. I want to give them until like maybe mid-July before I start to take some of these teams seriously. So, but yeah, look, a nice showing by them. And look, it's look, I mean, they should be very good of where they're at. I know our buddy Chris Gilman, our girl Christine Manica's fiance, I know he's very happy with where they're at right now, talking about the Angels. So really good. Staying in that division, Framber Valdez, he allowed just 1 hit in against the Nationals, and that lowers his ERA over his last 5 starts to just one .32, and that's the lowest ERA over a 5-start open for him in his career. So make the case for the Cy Young. I don't know if he may not. I don't know if he'll be like in the conversation for the Cy Young, but he's been very solid. I know it's the Nationals. I get it, but look, I mean, he's been doing it for over the last 5 starts. So I think he should definitely get commended for that. And look, that one game that the Blue Jays did with the Orioles, and Jose Barrios had probably had pitched definitely a gem. Yes. Now he's 10-0 right now against the Orioles with that win, and that's tied for the third most without a loss versus a single opponent over 80 years. Of course, Ray Johnson was 13-0 against the Cubs. Clayton Kershaw's 11-0 now against the Mets, and Bill Gullis again all the way back a ways, but he was 10-0 against the Mariners. So it's definitely a great showing by Barrios, and we actually had a pretty solid, one of the few bright spots that pitches have for the Blue Jays. Yeah, look, Schwarber's been very good for the Phillies too. That's why they're starting to get it going. He had 16 home runs in 2021. That's the most. In last season, he had 12. In June, he already has 5 already, which is already tied for the most in MLB for this month so far. So another great showing by Mr. Schwarber there. Eli De La Cruz, of course, the Reds phenom. He already has now 4 stolen bases and 4 RBIs in his first career games. The first guy to do that was Vince Coleman back in '85. He would end up winning Rookie of the Year in the National League. That year. I'm talking about Coleman did. So again, we'll see if he can keep it up. I mean, it's kind of hard to sort of make this, especially with such a little sample size, but we'll see if he can kind of keep it going, especially once more pitchers start seeing what his stance is and stuff, how he does and approaches pitches and stuff. So we'll see. But yeah, I think those are just some of the things that kind of caught my eye in MLB this week, I should say.
Staying in the National League, the San Diego Padres take 2 out of 3 from the Cleveland Guardians. That should be good news if you're a White Sox fan, for those of you that still holding out hope. And in the Subway Series 2023 edition between the Yankees and the Mets, of course, the Yankees won the opener, while Justin Verlander pitched well, and the Mets won it in 10 innings on Wednesday before a national audience. So I know the Mets have their struggles so far this year. Lakina, the Yankees, same thing, but they're above 500. The Mets are not. As we talk about the state of New York baseball for a minute, I think the Yankees, once they get healthy, I think they'll be okay. I don't think they're going to take over Tampa Bay for the American League East, but the Yankees can still be more than competitive to get into the playoffs. Now, on the flip side for the Mets, I'm not like we said, I'm not sure that firing Buck Showalter is going to do anything. But Francisco Lindor has shaved his head; he's bald-headed like yours truly now. So we'll see if that helps anything. But it was nice to see Justin Verlander get back to the Justin Verlander of old on Wednesday, pitching a gem for him. He's been inconsistent so far this year. Part of it has been due to his early season injuries.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of that old Justin Verlander in that Wednesday game. So we'll see if he can kind of keep it up with that. As far as Yankees are concerned, like I said, I think once Aaron Judge is back, and they there's a couple other guys too due to injury. I think once they're healthy, I think they should be okay. I don't think they're going to be able to catch the Rays. We'll get to the Rays in a little, but first team already got the best record, first team to 50, and such, but. Look, I mean, you got to be feeling pretty good if you're the Mets right now. You can kind of get it going, perhaps maybe look. It's still look. I mean, as worse as at least still right there to win it. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, real quick before we go to our scheduling, of course, the Giants swept the Cardinals, and the Cardinals were actually up like 5-3 or something like that, down to their last out. Of course, so but the Giants, scored 5. In their half of the ninth, and also 2 in their half, they took tie, and then they scored 3 in the top of the 10th to sweep them. And I don't know. I mean, I thought that maybe the Cardinals were figuring things out, but it turns out they haven't. So, I don't want to say they're out of it, but they're making it hard to kind of make that impression.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see a 2021 run in them, as they almost ran the table to late August through September to get into playoffs before firing Mike Schmidt as their manager last year. You have a different personnel in there this year for the Cardinals. Wilson Contreras among the new players. Of course, I know they have Jordan Walker up there as a prospect call-up now. So you don't want to count them out, but I'm getting those vibes as well. It's I don't think this is going to be their year to qualify for the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, it's not looking good for them now. The rest of the schedule for this weekend in baseball, of course, we talked about it earlier. Baltimore, Chicago, the first game of that series will, first pitch of that will kick off in about 25 minutes. But still, listen to us too first before you can do a little multitasking.
Yes.
Miami and Washington. That should be interesting. Well, not too interesting in the NL East. We'll see if Miami kind of keep it. They had kind of a rough week this week. Red Sox and Yankees again, this time over at Fenway. Oh gosh, okay.
Up in Fenway Park.
Fenway Park. St. Louis and the Mets to be those Cardinals. St. Louis and the Mets. They start their weekend series. Colorado and Atlanta. Toronto and Texas. That should be an interesting one there in the AL West. The Angels and the Royals. The Angels start their continue their East Coast road trip, and the Reds versus Houston on ESPN Plus. First game of that game will be on ESPN Plus at 7:10.
All right, the rest of the series weekend schedule looks like this. The Minnesota Tigers will take on the Minnesota Twins in this continuing their weekend series. Of course, Detroit Tigers. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Detroit won the opener last night, 8-4. Of course, yeah, Pittsburgh and Milwaukee, Cleveland and Arizona, Philadelphia at Oakland, Tampa Bay at San Diego, and then wrapping up the Giants, the San Francisco Giants, and the LA Dodgers. They battle for the first, I think the second time this year. This time is in a Dodger Stadium. Your Apple TV Plus schedule for tonight looks like this. You have Milwaukee hosting Pittsburgh at 7 o'clock. And, of course, our Chicago White Sox will travel to Seattle to take on the Mariners. That's the second game, the Apple TV Plus doubleheader. That's at 9:10 Central Standard Time.
Yeah, remember, you won't be able to watch those games in your local affiliates unless you get Apple TV Plus and unless you get MLTV.com. So that's the only place you'll be able to watch those games. Your national games for tomorrow, Saturday, you got Angels and Kansas City. They'll be on FS1 at 3:10. At your Fox Regional Saturday night lineup here, you got most people will get, I'm sure here in Chicago too, will get the Yankees and the Red Sox. And also Tampa Bay and San Diego. That should still be a fun series though too. On Fox, that'll be those you in the West Coast and all those you like in the Middle Atlantic, and also too another game. You got the Guardians and the Diamondbacks. That should be an interesting one there in Game 2 of that series on FS1 as the Guardians continue their West Coast trip. And your Peacock game of the week Sunday, of course, you got the Orioles and the Cubs. So all you Orioles and Cubs fans, I think it's the second time that the Orioles have been on Peacock this year. I think the Cubs too. Mm-hmm. So. 12:05 on Sunday on Peacock. So make sure you guys stream that as well. And of course, as we thought, Sid, the Yankees and the Red Sox, as they finish up their series, the ESPN Sunday game of the week. Yay. And that's your schedule for this weekend in MLB.
Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as Second City Sports continues. We're kicking off hour number 2 with Mr. John Zaghloul of Sports Talk Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know, though. I'm scared.
Do you know that you're in my lane?
No, not at all.
Are you not paying attention? Are you texting?
I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6.
It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention.
I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter and Keenan Scrum again on the IG.
We have less than an hour left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. You have any questions or comments, especially for our next guest, you can always hit us up on the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. Lakina, one of our missions this year was to bring on new people to join us here on Second City Sports. The next person we have up right now is a rising young star in our business. He has a podcast called Sports Talk Chicago. He's been everywhere, interviewing legends like Mike North, Ferguson Jenkins, to name a few, including our good friend of this podcast, George Altman, Hall of Fame Chicago sports broadcaster. You can follow John Zaghloul on Twitter and IG at John Z Sports. Once again, JONZ Sports on the Twitter and the IG. And don't forget, you can follow him also on Facebook at John Zaghloul. From Sports Talk Chicago podcast, you can watch also here on YouTube and wherever you can get your podcast. We will welcome in Mr. John Zaghloul to the program. John, welcome to the show. How are you, my man?
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me. And I have to say, first show ever in which you guys got the pronunciation right. You got all the Twitter and the IG stuff right. You guys did your homework, and I really appreciate that. Very, very nice intro.
Well, we had to go with the phonics class. We had to go with the phonics class for some of that. We're happy to have you here, John. So you go first with the first question.
Yeah, since we talked about baseball in the last half hour, John, we'll stick with baseball. I'll leave my White Sox out of it just to regain my sanity. But Chicago Cubs, they swept the Pittsburgh Pirates earlier this week. They're facing the Baltimore Orioles starting today for this weekend. Of course, the Cubs, this is their first 3-game winning streak since they won 4 in a row back in mid-April. What do you think has been the difference with this Cubs team this year? I know people got upset when they got blown out last Sunday at San Francisco, even though they did take 2 out of 3. But what do you think has been the difference with this Cubs team in this recent turnaround?
Yeah, I think just the overall performance has gotten so much better. I mean, what was their problem in the beginning, right? A lot of guys weren't hitting. The guys who should have been hitting weren't hitting. The guys who were pitching were not coming through. Jamison Tyone was showing Tyler Chatwood-esque vibes or Edwin Jackson-esque vibes early on. And Tyone still has to find a way to really turn that around himself. But you got an anchor at the top of the rotation in Marcus Stroman, who is, at this point, in my opinion, the NL Cy Young Award favorite. If the season ended today, leads all NL pitchers in WAR and leads all NL pitchers in ERA. So, just guys have started to perform and pick it up. Those who are doing well have become elite, like Marcus Stroman. Other players and just, the Cubs hitting in general has gotten better over time as the season has moved forward. And you usually see that, right? Opening the season, first couple of games, even first couple of weeks, it takes guys time to get back into that focus of baseball, playing every day, seeing the ball come out of the pitcher's hand, timing. But the Cubs, as of late, have done a much better job hitting the baseball as well. And I think that's helped them out in regards to their success for sure.
Do you think they have a shot to winning the division still? They're only 3.5 back as we're recording this. So what do you think of their chances?
I think anything's possible. At this point, they shouldn't even be 3.5 games back. If you look up their Pythagorean win-loss on Baseball Reference, which basically says what the Cubs' record should be based on their run differential, they should be a game over 500. So the fact that they're down where they are right now is actually an indictment of David Ross, an indictment of Jed Hoyer, an indictment of this Cubs leadership. I think anything is still possible. I do worry that maybe this Cubs team, especially going all the way up to the Ricketts, may still want to sell at the deadline because, I mean, let's face it, this is not a World Series contender. It's just a fun team. So I could see them still selling, blowing it up, quote unquote, once again. I mean, right now, Marcus Stroman's been asking 3 or 4 times for an extension, and the Cubs won't even engage with him on those talks, which I think is ridiculous. Even if you plan on trading him, at least tell him straight up. Don't just lure him along for the rest of this season because he's putting up such a great performance. It's possible. It's certainly doable. The question is, though, are the Cubs willing to buy in? Is management willing to buy in? And as of this taping, I'm not so sure about that.
You brought up manager David Ross, John, and I know there's been some whispers that his job should be in jeopardy. But even with this recent winning streak, do you think that he's the manager for the foreseeable future? Because I know at the beginning of the season, some people said that he didn't have the horses to compete with. It looks like he may have the majority of them now, barring injuries. Do you think his job is in jeopardy here for the foreseeable future?
I mean, I think he should be canned today, Sydney. Really, okay. I mean, I've not been happy with his performance. And from day one, the Cubs hired him as a public relations move. They hired him around the time that they sold off everybody. The whole point was to keep Cubs fans happy because they knew that the fire sale was going to come. They knew that fans weren't going to be thrilled about it. And even as we sit here today, the only 2 people on this team who were on that 2016 team are Kyle Hendricks and David Ross, the manager. The whole reason he was hired was for that reason and that reason alone. Now, they won their division in the COVID-shortened year, which is not, in my opinion, too much of an accomplishment. They finished just 8 games above 500, and they've been on a tailspin ever since. This year, the Cubs should be a game over 500, and instead they're still, 7 or 8 games under? So who do we blame then? I mean, we could blame the players for sure, but the run differential's there. So where else should it be going? Well, technically speaking, David Ross has made a number of mistakes this season. There's no doubt about that. Everybody could agree on that. I think his job is in jeopardy. And I think if the Cubs had a more experienced manager, not somebody who's hired because of favoritism or because of his name or because of the 2016 World Series, I think they'd be in a better position today. So as far as by the end of this season, I have my own questions about whether or not David Ross should be there. Maybe he will be. Maybe he'll survive one more year. I don't think he should. And if I were Jed Hoyer, I'd fire his ass immediately.
Well, the weird thing is they actually still have, I think they're the only NL Central that has like a positive run differential. So go figure on that. Now I'm going to bring back Sid Sandy, for a second, talk about his White Sox. Of course, they lose 2-3 against the Dodgers. I mean, the AL Central, we talked about the NL Central being bad, but I think the AL Central is comical. They're still 5.5 back. What do you like their chance of perhaps maybe making a run and perhaps winning the division?
You're talking about the White Sox or the Cubs, just to be sure?
The Sox.
The White Sox. Yeah, I think anything's possible. I would love it just for the sake of a feel-good story. I think it'd be so fun to see this team that was really down and out back in April and May. People calling into radio stations, roasting the White Sox, saying to blow it all up and fire everybody. It would just be a cool story to see them make a comeback. I'm rooting for them every day. Just as, on the outside looking in, I'd love to see them make a comeback. I'd love seeing these role players step up. Jake Berger. How about Jake Berger being one of the most elite power hitters in baseball? And that's a fact based on home runs and based on at-bats per homer. He's 4th in all of baseball in at-bats per homer, which is unbelievable. And he had just clobbered another one yesterday. So the story with the White Sox is nice. As far as personnel and talent goes, are they going to do it? I have my doubts. They have to leapfrog a couple of teams at this point. Not impossible to do. They really need to get on like a nice win streak, like a 9 or 10 game win streak or 8 game win streak, or hey, they've won 20 of their last 30, something like that to really just boost them up and put them back into that conversation. If they are contending for the division title, if they're like 3 games out, it's the trade deadline, I would hope they don't sell either, by the way, just as an aside. I want to see them try and do it. I just want to see everybody shut up. I want to see everybody shut their mouths and have to deal with the fact that somehow, some way, this team of misfits turns it around and wins the division. That said, long term, is this the team of the future? I have my doubts there too, right? I mean, this division is so weak. That's why they're still involved. As we speak, they're 10 games under. That is concerning no matter what. So we could see a rebuild for them. But if they're in it, hey, I'm all for them continuing to pursue it.
We know that first-year manager Pedro Grifol has his hands full. As you mentioned, they're 10 games under, but they're still 5.5 back. What grade, if you could you give Mr. Grifol so far in his performance as manager of the Sox?
I would say, if you want me to give a letter grade, I'd say a C, but the true grade is incomplete. I would say we still don't know yet. You know what? Everyone's going to go after Grifol just like everybody went after Tony La Russa, and I think we can sincerely see right now it was not Tony La Russa's fault, and it's not even Grifol's fault. This team has underperformed. I looked up the White Sox numbers today. I love looking on Baseball Reference. I look at it almost every day, and what do I see? I see 3 players in their everyday lineup with OPS pluses above 100. Everybody else is under. So the majority of this White Sox batting order is below average at hitting. You look at their pitching. Giolito's been good, but he's the best with a 3.54 ERA. Lance Lynn is still near 7. I mean, no one's performing. Dylan Cease, what happened to him? Michael Kopech, an ERA above 4. So it's not Grifol. It wasn't La Russa. These players who they have spent their time and money investing in are simply not performing. We could go back to the beginning of the season. Oh, wow, Oscar Colas is getting called up. I can't wait to watch Oscar Colas play. Oh, now he's back in AAA because he couldn't even hit a major league pitcher. So, we move forward and we see how this team has been performing. I am reluctant to blame Grifol for anything. Now, could that change, right? By the end of this year, maybe we'll see more tactical mistakes. We'll see dumb moves and idiotic decisions. We could go back and blame Grifol and trash on him all we want. But I think really Grifol and his performance and this White Sox performance in general is just vindicating what White Sox fans have seen for the past couple of years, what Tony La Russa was fired for, or supposedly fired for, or let go for. I think at the end of the day, these players have got to step it up. What about Tim Anderson, one of the worst qualified hitters in baseball right now? And no one's talking about that story either. So many issues, so many guys need to step it up. And if they don't, that's going to be the reason why they fail this year.
Talking to our new friend, Sports Our Chicago podcast, is John Zaghloul here on Second City Sports. I'm Sports of Chicago, Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Let's talk about something that's, things looking up for one team, and that is the Chicago Bears. They just finished mini camp. They'll do training camp later on in July. What are your expectations for the Bears this year? I mean, of course, they made a lot of great moves. They got DJ Moore, Tremaine Edmonds, among others. So where do you see this Bears team, as far as maybe at least contending for the NFC North?
Yeah, I think it's well within reach. I've heard people say, well, you need to give them another year. Maybe they'll win 6 or 7 games. I don't think so. They've spent a lot of money. They've made huge financial commitments to a number of different players. They've indirectly invested and directly in Justin Fields. They've told Justin, hey, you're the guy, and we're finally going to give you pieces that are going to help you succeed. DJ Moore being chiefly right up there number 1. But even if you add more to Chase Claypool and Darnell Mooney, that is a solid trio for your wide receiving core. The Bears have drafted Roschon Johnson, who I believe by week 6 or 7 is going to be the RB1 here in Chicago. They bolstered their offensive line. They're still looking for an edge rusher. Linebacking core is looking good. So the point is, the Bears have spent a lot of money. Ryan Poles has spent a lot of money. I would be disappointed myself if they are not at least 8-9 minimum in 2023. And in fact, I mean, in a perfect world, they should be contending or not clinching a wild card spot. I think that's very much in reach if what everyone's saying comes to light, right? So if Justin Fields does take this big leap, like everybody's predicting, and throws for maybe, let's say, 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, maybe 1,000 rushing yards, this team should easily be in the wild card weekend. You think about defensively, they could be better based off of last year. They gave up way too many points at times last year. Granted, they were tanking, but still. Think about this offensive line protecting Fields, which has gotten better, and even the run game and the wide receiving core. I think the Bears have done so much good. I have very little to criticize about their offseason, but as a result, their expectations have certainly become heightened. So we can't hold them to a higher standard or celebrate a 5 or 6 win season and claim that they doubled their win total from last year. They spent a lot of money. It's time that they put up results to show for it. And I think they will in 2023.
Sticking with the Bears, John, I did catch your commentary yesterday about the whole Bears situation. I'm using air quotes for those listening back on our replay on the podcast about the stadium situation. Of course, the Bears brought in new president Kevin Warren to smooth out that situation. I don't want you to give your whole speech again, but give us your abbreviated take about this situation of pinning neighboring suburbs against Arlington Heights with this stadium situation going on right now. Me personally, me and Lakina talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I think that at the end of the day, Arlington Heights is that's going to be the new home for the Chicago Bears. They already started to tear up that track to build it. So give us your quick synopsis on that situation.
Yeah, I just think it's colossally dumb. You already bought the property. You're already doing construction on it. And you've told fans actually for years that this is going to be the place indirectly. There have been press, since 2019, there have been talks about this. 2020, there have been talks about going to Arlington Heights and taking over the race course. So when reports come out that, hey, we're trying to move to Naperville, we might go to Waukegan. I know that one came up the other day. It's like, what are we doing, guys, huh? Keep your message the same. Everybody's already had their feelings come out, good or bad, about Arlington Heights, but people are willing to accept it. I think at this point, everyone's like, okay, when's it going to open up? How nice is it going to be? Is it going to be better than Soldier Field? Great. Exciting. Let's do it. Having all these other cities come up, having meetings with other cities, really for no reason. I just think it's a bad PR move. I think it's kind of dumb. And, fans want to know what's going on, and rightfully so. They deserve to know what's going on. So throwing in all this confusion at the last second when you already bought the property and you're starting to tear things down, to me, does not make too much sense. So help Kevin Warren and company come to their senses, stick with Arlington Heights, and get that stadium built ASAP, because people, I promise you, are going to show up.
What a Bearsy move this is, for them, doing all this.
Yeah,
they're like Romeoville. I think I saw somebody said something about that too. Peoria, maybe Oaklawn or Tinley Park or whatever. But John, let's talk some. Go to the social media and talk some Bulls. Now, of course, there have been some rumors that the Bulls are exploring perhaps trading Zach LaVine for Bradley Beal. Perhaps, of course, for anybody that don't know, Bradley Beal, his openness that he wants to be traded and such. So where do you think the Bulls are? They don't have a draft pick. All this other stuff. They got to think about whether they want to bring back Io or perhaps maybe P. Will. So what do you think of what the moves that the Bulls should make?
I had to be a naysayer or a doomsday guy. I feel like I've been doing that a lot, but really all these Chicago teams are in big trouble, with the exception of maybe the Bears, and the Bulls are no exception. What a disappointing season. We saw them, we were expecting so much improvement. We were expecting some good things, and they get bounced in the play-in round and really do nothing for themselves. Nikola Vucevic is technically a free agent. Technically. He will be. Now they're exploring trading Zach LaVine. DeMar DeRozan is on the fritz himself. It could be out of here sooner rather than later. The point is, this core that Arturas Karnisovas built has only lasted 3 years, and it's produced nothing. It's produced absolutely nothing. It's been a total joke and a waste of time, in my opinion. And now you're at a situation where you're already having to make the choice of, should we pay Vooch? Should we trade LaVine? Will DeRozan stick around? You're already at a point where you might have to do a rebuild again after you came in and claimed that you just did a rebuild and just rebuilt this team up to a 46-36 season. And, the Bulls that year were near the top of the East for that first part of the season before the All-Star break. So that's the best you could be, I guess, with this core. If that's the ceiling for this core, I advocate to break it up, and I advocate for this team to rebuild. But then what do you do when you have no draft picks even? What do you do when you've traded draft picks away? You lose a draft pick to tampering. It's a really bad situation, and really this reflects solely on Arturas Karnisovas. This is sad. This is somebody who came in and was supposedly one of the smaller architects behind the Nuggets, who now just won the finals. I don't know what the hell happened here. I don't know what the objective was from day one, maybe to win quick and win fast and get rid of all the players that Garpax drafted or developed, which is fine. But if you plan on doing that, you got to make sure you develop and you draft the right players. Patrick Williams, for all intents and purposes, is a bust. And that was his first pick. Everybody touted it. Patrick Williams sucks. And he has done nothing of significance in the National Basketball Association. Zach could be on his way out. Nikola Vucevic may, in fact, be on his way out, and DeMar DeRozan will be joining him too. So what else do you even have to stand on? The Bulls have to make some serious decisions about what their future to look like. My expectation and my recommendation is, at this point, prepare to rebuild, stock up draft capital, and Bulls fans should prepare for a long couple of years. That said, if they do it right, this team's going to be great by 2025, 2026 maybe, which is something to hang your hat on. But what else could you do with the situation that you're in? They don't want to go over the cap. This core that they've invested in can't even do anything but get to the playoffs barely. So you're really in a horrible position no matter what. I don't envy their decision. I don't envy being a decision maker. But if it were me, I kind of bite the bullet, tear it up, and move forward and see what you could do. Reassess.
Last moment or two with Sports Talk Chicago podcast host Mr. John Zaghloul, right here on Second City Sports, right here on Sports on Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. John, last question from me. As I mentioned at the top before we brought you on, you interviewed so many great stars in the sports world like Tim Kirchin, Mike North, and George Altman. How did you get this podcast started? I see now you have a couple of new co-hosts that's joining your podcast now. Tell us how that all got started and coming to where it is now.
Sure. I started Sports Talk Chicago when I was 13 years old in my bedroom. Began it as a free blog, turned it into a website. Self-taught myself how to podcast at 14. A lot of those were audio. And, ever since then, the thing's really proliferated into what it is today. We're on a couple of local television affiliates. We're on a local terrestrial radio affiliate. Obviously, our YouTube channel, 18,000 plus subscribers strong. And the podcast itself is obviously still going strong wherever you get your podcasts. So, just over time, just kind of learning, hey, how do I do a podcast? How do I get guests? How do I maintain relationships? How do I find new guests? It's certainly a process. And now we've kind of expanded into a network where we have Joey Christopoulos and former Bear Corey Wooten doing a show for us on YouTube. And Clay Harbor, former NFL tight end, doing a show for us as well on YouTube and on podcasting platforms. It's summer, dog days of summer. We're not getting as much production overall. I envision that will change once the football season comes rolling around in August. And they're going to start doing weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, twice-a-week shows, which is going to be huge on top of the production that I do. A cool journey, fun stuff. It used to be an identifier for me, like, this is me. Now it's more like, hey, you know what? I just enjoy doing this. It's not as hardcore as I used to perceive it before. And I think it's actually allowed myself to produce better content because I'm not living or dying on it. I'm just enjoying the ride. And that's the fun part about it. So super fun, good stuff to come, a lot of content to come. And come Bears season, I'll tell you, we're going to be one of the number one spots next to you guys, of course. I'm not trying to take your audience away, but next to you guys, we will be one of the top spots for Bears coverage for sure on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe today and check that out.
Well, that's the best part about it is that, look, we can always listen back on YouTube, and vice versa. So it's always is. So where people can find your podcasts and such.
Yep, Sports Talk Chicago. That's all you got to do. Search that up. Google, first thing that comes up. Bing, any search engine you use. But we got a podcast, all podcasting platforms. We're on YouTube at Sports Talk Chicago, on social everywhere at Sports Talk Chicago as well. You can follow me personally at John Z Sports and go to the website, obviously, sportstalkchicago.com for everything that you need. Trying to think, we're on 2 TV affiliates, Jed TV in Northwest Indiana and ACTV, Aurora Public Access Television in Aurora, in the Aurora area. That's on Xfinity and Comcast, or Xfinity and Uverse. And then on radio, AM 1230 WJOB, Thursdays, 5 to 6 p.m. So we are really, we're everywhere. So whatever's most convenient for you, I guarantee you will be there and you could consume our content.
All right, that's been John Zaghloul of Sports Talk Chicago. As you mentioned, you can catch him everywhere on these social media streets, as we would say. John, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Great work, young man. Keep up the great work. We'll definitely have you back on this program again very soon. And tell your guys that they have an invite to this or to our show as well.
I will, for sure. Thank you, guys. Enjoyed the questions, enjoyed the banter, and looking forward to the next time we chat.
All right. Take care. You have a great weekend, okay?
Thank you. You too.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, John.
Once again, that was John Zaghloul or Sports Talk Chicago. You can find him everywhere you get your podcasts. You can find him on YouTube. Just type in the Sports Talk Chicago. You can catch all his great content. As he mentioned, his co-host bringing you Bears content. You can catch that also under the Sports Talk Chicago brand as well.
All right, Sid. So let's wrap things up. After this break, we're going to talk about another championship, another first-time championship being crowned, and why Bears and a few other teams are doing away with, don't want nothing to do with Hard Knocks, apparently, of course. Lot more. Right? I know, right? It's just crazy. But we'll talk about all that and more coming up next. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Chicago. We'll be wrapping things up coming up. All right, got to get this thing going here right after this.
No, I don't know, though. I'm scared.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Oh boy.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Friday edition. We're Friday Fun Friday, however you want to name it. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. This is our last break of the show for today and for the week. We're going to make it a strong one. We're going to make it a great one like we always do. But in the meantime, in between time, you can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Keenan McNeil on the Twitter, and Keenan's going to be on the IG. Easy for me to say.
Yeah, and we like to thank, we'll thank him once again at the end of the show, but we'd like to thank John Zaghloul of Sports Talk Chicago. You can check out his website at sportstalkchicago.com. He has great content on there as well. As we mentioned, you can follow him at John, JONZ Sports on the Twitter and Instagram to also access those articles as well. He has strong takes. He makes a lot of sense whether you agree with him or not. And we're definitely going to have him back on this program for sure down the line.
For sure. So, Sid, let's do that hockey. Another champion was crowned after, of course, the Nuggets won their first championship. The Vegas Golden Knights win their first championship, Stanley Cup championship. Just hammering the Florida Panthers. I mean, I think this is definitely probably the most goals scored in a clinching game, if I'm not mistaken, in all in NHL history. 9-3, the final there, and I kept the game in the background after like the second period. There was like 5-1 or like 6-1 or something like that. I mean, the Panthers did score a couple of goals. There's more like garbage goals like near the end. They just no match for the Knights. And they're actually.
Go ahead, Lakina. Wi-Fi issues.
The hell would I do? No, it's okay. Look, I have them too, so don't feel bad. Mark Stone had 2 goals, including an assistant goal that kind of started that just a hammering of this buzzsaw scorer, Aaron Ekblad, who actually ended up, turns out he actually had like a broken shoulder at the end. We find out at the end of the game. Of course, Jonathan Mershensalt. I mean, he becomes he had a hat trick, I should say. Mark Stone did, but Jonathan Mershensalt, who was one of the first guys. Well, actually, he wasn't drafted. Remember, he actually joins Wayne Gretzky as being just the second person to win the Conn Smythe without being drafted. Remember when Gretzky joined the Oilers, he was playing the the old WHA. Remember that, Sid? So yeah, good grief. I know it's been like. It's crazy, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy for Bruce Cassidy. They lose the Brewers lose a tough Stanley Cup final a couple years ago. He got axed last season. Now he comes back and wins a Stanley Cup, and also you're happy for Jack Eichel, who, if you guys remember, he's been around a while too. But yeah, he was in the same draft class as Connor McDavid. Now he got to McDavid's. Now the pressure's gonna be on him, perhaps maybe win. Especially since Eichel got his first. They actually are also the 7th franchise in NHL history to require 6 or fewer seasons to win their first Stanley Cup. They actually become the fastest, NFL, MLB, maybe an NHL team to win a title since the Arizona D-Bats did it back in 2001. Of course, their World Series there. But yeah, so what did you think? It was just a buzzsaw. The Panthers. They just couldn't really figure it all out.
Yeah, Vegas showed you what they were made of from top to bottom. As we said throughout the series, even before the series began, Vegas can score with the best of them, but they had the most balanced roster in hockey. Now, congratulations to them winning the cup. They can score goals at a rapid pace, but they can be physical with you as well. As we talked about on the other side with the Florida Panthers, they don't have the firepower in terms of scoring. They had the great goaltending in Sergei Grabowski, minus that last game. But they were undisciplined at many times throughout this series. And it really wreaked its ugly head, as we talked about with the NBA Finals, Lakina. Miami, they deserved to be there, but they didn't have enough firepower to go against the Denver Nuggets. That's what happened here with the Florida Panthers. Great story. Being an AC, one of the last teams to get in and making their way to the Stanley Cup final, but they just didn't have enough firepower offensively to go at the Vegas Golden Knights. Congratulations again to the Vegas Golden Knights winning their first Stanley Cup. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say there's going to be a dynasty, anything like that, especially in the game of hockey with a hard salary cap. It's very hard to do. We saw that with the Blackhawks, even though they squeezed out 3, even though none of them was back-to-back. They barely squeezed out 3 titles in the last decade during this hard cap, salary cap era in the NHL. So congratulations again to the Golden Knights, but the better team won. And shouts out to TNT as well. I don't know what the final numbers were at the end, but they did a great job covering this Stanley Cup final series, the first year of doing it for Turner Sports.
Yeah, I got like a 2 point, I think like 2.6, I think, give or take, and which is not bad. It's not as good as it was last year, but I think if you're Turner, you kind of unfortunately expected that being, two teams, in the Sun Belt, and you don't really see, a lot of outside those. You saw Jack Eichel at a club in Las Vegas celebrating. There was like two people there that were applauded him when he had the cup with him. But look, I mean, look, he's young, he's single. I mean, he can do that. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm happy for Phil Kessel. This is his third cup. Like I said, Mercer Salt. I mean, Mark Stone, among others. Some of those guys are from originally from the Vegas, the inaugural season of the Golden Knights. You're happy for those guys. I mean, Alex Martinez has been around for a bit. Shea Theodore, Jonathan Quick. I think this is his second or third.
I think this is his third. His third, because they won it. I'm talking about the Kings. They won it in 2012, and of course 2014, which should have been the Blackhawks year, but we won't get into that. Thank you, Alex Martinez. Who scored the game winner in the UC in Game 7 in the 2014 Western Conference Final. But yeah, 2012, 2014, and now in 2023. I think this is Alex Martinez's third Stanley Cup ring as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah, because I remember that. The 2014. Oh, Jesus, yeah. I'm happy for Martinez. He was a big part of this Stanley Cup win for them. But yeah, I mean, of course, Bruce Cassidy, of course, allegedly, I guess he was let go because some players thought he was too hard on them, and you saw the tough loss that they had a couple of years back. I mean, look, you feel good for him because people thought that he was done for. He's gonna go to Vegas and just be going to oblivion. Well, you come back about just less than 2 years later, and he wins his first cup. So there you go.
Yeah, how fortunes turn sometimes in life in general, but especially in the world of sports. Boston had a great regular season. You saw they got axed in the first round against the Florida Panthers. And Bruce Cassidy, they're just chucking on. Remember, Vegas barely missed the playoffs last year. They came back, regrouped, and got themselves together, and now in the Stanley Cup chance. I'm glad it worked out for him personally.
Yeah, if you remember that 2019 Stanley Cup loss that they had, of course, they lost to the Blues, and
I thought that team quit in Game 7. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah, they were at home and
yeah, it felt that way, and of course, the Blues just bum rushed them in Game 7. But but look, Cassidy was able to come back a couple of, like I said, like 3 years later and win a title. So look, sometimes it's like that, especially in hockey. So you got to give them a little bit of credit for that. And look, I'm sure there's still a party in Vegas. I'm sure most people are noticing, I think. But
well, they're gonna have a parade tomorrow night, Saturday, along the Strip. So before you waste your money away, or you have a very little money left, go attend the Stanley Cup parade and then blow your money on these gambling machines, the slot machines.
Yeah, I think that's the idea, right? That's probably why they're doing that. So that's hilarious. But yeah, I think if only that cup could talk, it would need its own 10 or 12 episode series on probably one of the streamers, probably on Netflix or Hulu or Prime or something. That's how that they would have laryngitis, that poor thing. But I want to be one of those guys that carry the cup. I'm one of those guys. I'm sure those guys get paid a lot because they're going to travel the world and make sure it's handled right and know that they weird. Like I said, that they could talk. But yeah, but congrats to the Vegas Knights. They're totally deserving champion as well.
Yeah, if this cup could talk, that should be a new series.
Yeah, we better copyright
this
that.
Cup could talk.
We better copyright that too, in case. Gotta copyright that. But again, congrats to the Vegas Knights, a worthy champion as well. And look, hopefully, Florida Panthers, look, they got nothing to be ashamed of. They got this far and they pulled off a lot of upsets on the way. So they should be. Look, I think Paul Maurice, he handled it with class as he usually does. So you feel for that team, and of course, Matt, Tkachuk, he had like a broken sternum, so he wasn't able to play Game 5. So yeah, you feel for him too. But yeah, that's just terrible. But yeah, I don't think they would have been able to win it with it if he was there. But yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah, just a couple other things to wrap up the hockey talk. One, the Florida Panthers went through a situation last year, getting rid of Coach Joe Quenneville. Of course, it was related to the Cal Beach situation. And you talk about the injuries. Of course, the hockey players who go through these injuries, you just don't know about until everything is over. They put a lot on the line. Not saying that other athletes in other sports don't, but hockey players more than anybody. They're the most humble, the most gracious. They put a lot in terms of their health on the line, and they wear the most equipment next to football players. Remember that story back in the 90s, Lakina, Chris Chelios playing, I think it's the year they lost. I forgot what year, but he played the whole playoff season with a broken toe.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think wasn't I forgot who was on one of those Hawks teams, and then somebody said they had like a broken like collarbone. There, I don't know. Well, I don't know if it was Keith or was it Seabrook, but somebody had a broken collarbone. They played through that, and of course, y'all know, Keith and the teeth. That was a big thing during that first Stanley Cup run. But but yeah, I mean, look, you saw it, but then you see the flip side. Henri Richard, remember the Hall of Famer? I think he won like 7 Stanley Cups with the Canadiens. Turns out, died a couple years ago, but it turns out he had CTE. I mean, that whole thing, talk about like sacrificing bodies. You saw, Keith Montador and Stan McKee. It turned out, came out that he had CTE too, like among other players. So yeah, you feel for that, literally putting their bodies, on the line. So I don't want to bring it down, but yeah, it's sort of like the realism of, like you said, with all the various injuries and concussions and stuff. But yeah, it's just crazy what these guys go through.
Yep, and we give them all the respect and the admiration in the world. You listen to the Second City Sports, the Friday edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and live in color. See Lakina hanging out here with you. Lakina, give us our golf update. The U.S. Open is taking place on the West Coast this weekend in sunny L.A., California.
Yeah, they're playing the North Course in LA, country club course, the North Course there. And we've already seen records broken. Ricky Fowler, it's great to see him back at the top of the leaderboard in a major.
Haven't heard that name in a minute.
I know, right? And it's also Xander Schauffele, who's right. I mean, and also Xander Schauffele, who also broke the course record. 63 yesterday. It was actually now Wendell Clark, who actually has a 1-shot lead right now. The great thing being on the West Coast this year, get a little bit of prime time golf this weekend on NBC for Father's Day. So all you guys golf fans can definitely check it out through the weekend, both Saturday or tomorrow and Sunday. You see guys like Ricky Fowler, of course, Xander Schauffele, Dustin Johnson, who usually doesn't do well in the U.S. Open, but it's nice to see him back there. Tony Finau, I think some of his best results have been at the U.S. Open. Also, some of the other names, Rory McIlroy still right there. I think he's had a tough second round so far. Cam Smith, that's our girl Christine's guy, reigning Open champion. He's right there in the top 12. So yeah, so a lot of mixture of solid names and such. So this could be definitely, of course, John Rahm's right there at -1. He has out to about still like right before 4:00, so got a little bit of time there. But yeah, this should be a very interesting U.S. Open, like I said, because of the course where it's being played, and also too, I mean, there's still some guys have actually played on that course, and that country club course in Los Angeles is the first time that LA has hosted the U.S. Open since. Yeah, going back to 1948. This is actually also the 7th course to make its U.S. Open debut over the last 50 years. So it should be exciting finish at that country club for this year's U.S. Open.
Yeah, as you know, Lakina, I'm not a big golf fan. I'm a casual golf fan because I know Tiger's not in there. I'm not stupid, but Phil Mickelson's not in there, correct?
Yeah, he's in it.
He's in it. Okay. Yeah, I know. Yeah, okay. I know he's been known as a choke artist for the majority of his career. I know he started winning titles for the last here and there for the last several years. But as I said before, and I'll say it again, who is that young guy that's going to come in and take over golf and get that casual fan like yours surely to watch whenever tournaments they play every week or every month or what have you? And I know with that tournament being in Los Angeles this year, you would think it will bring out the stars. I haven't heard any major stars come out there yet. If they have, I just haven't heard anything about it. But you would hope maybe it's a breakout star. We're not talking about who's on the leaderboard. Lakina is going to break through. But the golfers that you just mentioned, no personal disrespect to them, but they just don't have that it factor like Tiger has. Many people are going to cheer for him, and people are going to cheer against him because he was just so damn dominant. But will this tournament have a breakout star? We'll see. But like you said, we're in the early rounds. I know it usually picks up in the later rounds, so on Saturday and Sunday.
Well, and also with it being in the West Coast, a lot of these guys don't tee off till like later this afternoon. So we'll see. And of course, Phil is actually just a shot away from missing the cut. He's 2 under. The projected cut is at 3 over, I should say. The projected is at 1 over. So we'll see if he can kind of get back going there. But yeah, I mean, you see some of these guys that are in the leaderboard right now. I guess Sergio, who this usually doesn't tend to do well at the U.S. Open. Matt Fitzpatrick, who has a Masters. We'll see if he can kind of get back, going here at the U.S. Open. Look, this is one of those tournaments where you kind of think you actually do get some guys that are familiar, but they get guys that kind of, I don't want to say come out of nowhere, but it would be great to see Xander Schauffele break through and win a major. He's been close a couple of times. Harris English has been close to a couple of times. He's been around a while. Bryson DeChambeau, I mean, it'd be great to see him back. He's tied for 11th right now. Scotty Scheffler, I mean, he's another. He's a reigning Masters champion, so yeah, he's good to see him in it too. Yeah, so I think there's so many ways you can go with this. I think it should be an interesting U.S. Open. Like I said, you catch it on prime time, West Coast. Great that they haven't been on the West Coast this year. On I think the cover starts like 7:00 our time, maybe like 5:00 I think our time. And I know you can, of course, you can stream it on Peacock. So if you prefer to do that, then all day coverage. So if you prefer to do that, that's fine. But yeah, definitely check it out this weekend.
All right. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina hanging out here with you. We're live in 11 on Sports Zone Chicago. We still have a few minutes left, Lakina. Any other leftover thoughts? I found before we go into maybe a little sports media news, I found an interesting article courtesy of our good friends at Awful Announcing.
I think that's it for the most part. Let's the mini camp, of course, they just finished mini camp. Also too, I guess DeAndre Hopkins just finished his visit with the Patriots. He always visited with the Titans and the Patriots so far. We'll see who else is going to be like the tour of the D-Hop tour, as they're calling it. So we may not hear anything who he signs to before training camp starts. He's still got like a little over a month, so it is what it is with him. But yeah, also Mike Dunleavy Jr. has been named the new GM of the Golden State Warriors.
Oh yes, congrats to him. Yes,
yeah, he's been executive there for about 5 or 6 years. Of course, he won. He was on the first team that won the title. Of course, we know his dad. His dad was a GM and a coach for many years. Mike Dunleavy Sr. And look, we just see what he does. I mean, he knows a lot of these guys well. He knows Steph and Clay and Draymond. I mean, just because he played with them. So we just see what he does. Like I said, he's got a lot to think about. I think it's going to be a lot of things. Will he break it up? Will he kind of give it another year or two? Perhaps add. So Mr. Dunleavy's got a lot of questions to answer. So we'll see what happens.
Yes, he started as a scout with the Golden State Warriors back in 2018. Of course, he was a former NBA player, former Duke standout. Of course, he played with the Bulls many years ago toward the end of that Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler era here in Chicago. He was a very good player. I remember his dad playing. He was an emergency player for the Milwaukee Bucks when he was assistant coach back in the day before he got to head coaching with the Lakers. Of course, he was a coach of the Portland Trail Blazers in the late 90s into early 2000s. So his father made a big impact in the NBA as well. So, but like you said, going back to the present day, Dunleavy Jr. will have some tough decisions to make, and let's see if Draymond Green is traded before the start of next season, or if Jordan Poole is traded before the start of next season. I don't see either one of those guys staying on the team, but Dunleavy G has this position. He has some tough decisions to make. I think Steph and Clay are pretty good, but the rest of that roster is probably pretty much up for grabs.
Definitely gonna be interesting to see how that Warriors team looks next season. So will it be a little bit different with a couple of guys, or will it be completely different? We'll see. He has a big decision to make, so we'll see what happens with that. Also, too, real quick, Michael Jordan is finalizing a sale of the Charlotte Hornets to a group led by Gabe Plockton and Rick Snall, and also to rapper J. Cole and country star Eric Church. So there's a interesting. Totally a random duo that I did not have on my NBA ownership bingo card, but MJ is getting like $3 billion, so, or at least most of the $3 billion. So he said, "Look, okay, I'll take it, and just maybe he'll run off into the sunset."
Yeah, he's MJF, as we call him, MJ. So we'll see what happens with the ownership. Of course, we remember other superstars from the entertainment world, both movies and music, trying to get into. Remember, P. Diddy was trying to get into the ownership of the Panthers a few years ago. It was him, Steph Curry, and a couple other people. I know Magic Johnson. I think his group has the Washington Commanders now, if I'm not mistaken. At least they were involved in that. So you're starting to see Hollywood stars trying to pull the resources and their money together to get with other people to buy sports franchises. I think it's very interesting. We'll see if that trend continues for the foreseeable future.
Should be interesting. Yeah, like I said, it'll be like I say, he's gonna enjoy his some of that $3 billion and go about his business. So I don't blame him, Jim. And look, I know some fans are probably like, yeah, maybe we'll see a reversal of fortune here. So we'll see what happens with that. So Sid, let's go to the entertainment news that you well, you know what? Real quick, San Diego State you know, they've given the Mountain West Conference written notice to resign from the conference. So geez, I guess we're gonna have another edition of conference musical chairs coming up. So God, I mean, they were one of the founding members of that conference, along with the Air Force and UNLV and New Mexico and those schools. So now they want out of the Mountain West. So I'm like, oh, you gotta be freaking kidding me! Like my head hurts. But yeah, go ahead, Sid. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna we'll probably have more details about this on our next show coming up next week on Monday. So we'll see what happens with that. But we all know it all has to do with money at the end of the day. And will the Pac-12 still be around? This is just my guess. Haven't done any homework yet, but could San Diego State join the quote unquote new Pac-12? Because remember, USC and UCLA will join the Pac-10 after next season.
Big Ten.
Big Ten, sorry. They're leaving the Pac-10 and join the Big Ten after next season.
Oh, yeah. And so, yeah, more musical chairs there. Of course, Texas and Oklahoma, they're going to be joining the SEC. They actually released their schedule, for their football schedule for 2024, which will be the start of the new SEC. And now, look, I mean, seeing Missouri and Oklahoma and Texas play each other, I mean, that's going to be the old, like, Big 8, old Big 12, early years of the Big 12. So, and also, too, Texas and Arkansas playing each other. You got the Southwest Conference, old Southwest Conference days. So, yeah, so the other stuff's going to be very weird to get used to. So, San Diego State leaving one of the founding members of the Mountain West. I mean, that's going to, gonna be, oh, God, money in the room, all evil here.
Yeah, you're telling your age with some of those rivalries. But
I know, right? It's all right. That's fine.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up with something fun and interesting, Lakina. This comes to us from the author Sean Keeley from Awful Announcing. And this article talks about which, in his opinion, he thinks that 5 sports media figures mentioned as potential Wheel of Fortune hosts. Of course, Pat Sajak, who's been the only host of Wheel of Fortune for the past 41 years. He announced that in September, when the new season starts for Wheel of Fortune, this will be his last. He announced that via Twitter a few weeks ago. So we say congratulations to Pat Sajak on a great game. He's the longest American game show host on television in the history of American television. But here's Sean Keeley's, I should say, 5 names that he says they could replace Pat Sajak from the sports world.
Okay.
Stephen A. Smith, George Sedano, Charles Barkley, Michael Strahan, which makes more sense, and Aaron Rodgers.
Well, remember, Aaron Rodgers was in the run for Jeopardy for a
Jeopardy,
little bit.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But of course, he's about to play go and do that football thing. Stephen A. Smith, no. George
I know he said he wanted to do late nights, so I'm not saying he couldn't do the job, but Stephen A. always said he wanted to do some type of late night talk show. I think that's more his realm.
Yeah, George Sedano, maybe. Charles Barkley, I don't know if I can imagine. They probably might want somebody a little bit younger, if I'm not mistaken. Strahan, I think, makes the most sense. He already hosts a primetime version of Pyramid. So that's probably, out of those 5 names, that's probably the one name that actually makes sense. But, I mean, look, it's going to be definitely the end of an era for Wheel of Fortune. I mean, of course, we all know Sajak's been doing it for, since 1981, basically before we were born. Well, I don't know about you, but before I was born.
I was a year old when that show started, so.
Yeah, of course, we've seen a bit of variation of it, in daytime. Of course, we saw, Bob going. I think there was another guy that did it, too, while Pat was doing, speaking of late night, he was doing late night. for a little bit. So
I forgot about that. That's right.
Remember those couple of years, but
Yeah.
it's definitely the end of an era. Like I said, I know Ryan Seacrest's name has been floating around as well. I just look, I said on Twitter before, I'm going to say it here. Just get like 5 to 10 names, have them do like a live audition in front of the audience and see how the audience responds to those 5 to 10 people, and then just go from there. Let's not give it to just Seacrest or Strahan, or I know Mario Lopez's name has been floating around as well. So Steve Harvey, I know some people said that too, but yeah, I mean, it had to fit that. You gotta think that they gotta have chemistry with Vanna White, assuming that I don't know, she might be not want to do it anymore either. We know we got past daughter Maggie might just take over from there, so they got to make sure they get along with both of them, assuming that happens. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it goes. But definitely another era for Jeopardy.
Yeah, for Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, so like I said,
Wheel of Fortune. Sorry.
Yeah. How you doing, Brandon? I know he's checking in via the YouTube. Hi, Brandon. He says a call make it Aaron Rodgers. We'll see. Right now he's doing the football thing with the New York Jets.
Right.
And I don't know, the good folks at Wheel of Fortune will be waiting that long for him to quit whenever that is. But Michael Strahan makes the most sense. I don't know if you read this, Lakina, but as you mentioned, Steve Harvey, the comedian, he's a current host of Family Feud. I know the higher ups at Family Feud wanted Michael Strahan to do that show, but if he doesn't get that spot, I'm talking about Strahan, as you mentioned, he does the new version of $1,000 Pyramid. If he doesn't get the Family Feud spot, that Wheel of Fortune makes sense because he's relatable to everybody, and he's still young enough to appease all types of audiences. So Strahan out of that list makes the most sense.
Right. So yeah. So we'll see. Like I said, they got a year before they, Wheel of Fortune, the producers, they got a year before they got to figure out who's going to replace him. And I'm sure Mr. Shea is going to have his say. I know Vanna White's going to have his say. Pastor and Maggie, again, assuming that she ends up taking over for Vanna. That's the rumor there. I think I'm sure she'll have a say too. Yeah, I think even the viewers as well. So yeah, a lot can happen within the next year and a half. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Now, another big sports media news real quick before we disperse. Hard Knocks is having a very hard time finding a team to do their upcoming season. Of course, Jets coach Robert Saleh basically said no thanks. Apparently 4 teams automatically would be eligible. You got the Bears, the Saints, the Jets, speaking of the Jets, and also to the Commanders. Now, apparently none of those teams want to do it. So, yeah, and of course, the Broncos. I know Sean Payton's already. I think they've done it with the Saints before. Yeah, I think Sean Payton says, "Look, we're not eligible because he just became a new head coach." So, they're not eligible. But apparently, no tickets for Hard Knocks this year. So,
the NFL's going to find somebody to do it. So whether they're like it or not, they're going to pick somebody and they're going to have the cameras on. And remember, these teams control to a large extent what goes on television. So. That whoever gets picked, they'll have to get ready for that. But Washington, I know they had all those troubles with now ex-owner Daniel Snyder all these years. Do they really have an interesting storyline outside of the new ownership? No, they don't. Shout out to our good friend Julie Donaldson, who's the head of broadcasting over there for the Commanders, friend of the show. But outside the new ownership, do they really have an interesting storyline for people to grab onto? No. I get it for the Jets, new quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Of course, Chicago got a new stadium coming. George McCaskey, were you hiding? Me, selfish, I want them to pick the Bears, but you got Justin Fields, and many people expect them to make the jump this year. So you got a lot of storylines. So plus they're their charter franchise in the NFL. And what was the other team, Lakina? The Saints.
The Saints. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me see. Let me find that part of the article again. Yes.
The Saints, okay,
yes.
They're interesting because they usually Sean Payton left a couple years ago, and they have a new quarterback in Derek Carr, so that could be interesting. But I think the head of that list obviously is the Bears. You got a new stadium coming. You got Justin Fields. Everybody's in love with it right now, wanting him to take that next step. They have some new pieces. They did some damage in free agency. They made the most sense. They make the most sense.
But they're not gonna, the ownership, and I'm sure Coach Flus don't want to have any interest in doing the Hard Knocks. So,
but if the NFL tells them they're gonna have to do it, they're gonna have to do it.
Well, they can say, look, we'll just take the $500,000 fine or whatever. But they say they're not gonna want to do it, and so I think look, I think the Jets have already said no thanks, and I know this they can make it. They can't make the Bears do it, but they really can't. So. It's going to be interesting. Like, Commanders, I mean, not really. I mean, we know Chico Rivera's pretty engaged. Juan Rivera's pretty engaging.
Mm-hmm.
So, but other than that, I mean, okay. The Jets with everything else. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, look, I said the NFL can make they can make a team do it, but I doubt they will.
But they got to find somebody to do it. How are they going to do it? And you need eyeballs to watch. So they got some pulling to do.
Well, yeah, I think Buffalo, but I don't know if they're gonna want to do it too, especially with everything else. I mean, I know they just did the Rams a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They just did Dallas.
I would say the Packers. I know Aaron Rodgers is not there, but Jordan Love going to his first full year as a starter. That's an interesting storyline, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Let's see who else. The Giants, maybe with their breakthrough year last year. Philly, I mean, maybe. They're coming off a Super Bowl. I know KC probably wants no part. Did you see the rings last night? Good Lord, like 210 carat diamonds or so, 210 diamonds or something in that ring. Like, good grief. I don't know. I mean, Atlanta, nah.
No.
Jackson. Well, I know they just did Jacksonville. And it is Arizona, just last season in season. San Fran, I don't know they're gonna want any part of it. Yeah, I mean, look, so they gotta pick somebody, I guess, but they gotta be a team that's gonna be willing to actually do it. So you really can't drag a team kicking and screaming. So
yeah, they did Indianapolis in season last year, so it's not gonna be them.
Right. So a couple of years ago, yes, they did. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting, but
okay. On that note,
you can follow me at Kingdom McGee on the Twitter and at Kingdom's gonna be on the IG.
You can follow yours Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Just go to the Google Play Store to do that. Don't forget to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast, WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And yes, Sports Zone Chicago is on Roku TV.
Sorry
Roku
about that.
TV.
Yeah, sorry about that. A little bit early on the jump there, but yeah, just put in Sports Zone Chicago wherever you have your Roku, whether it's a stick or whatever device you got. You can catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas. What's up, cuz? I know they're gonna have some pretty stuff. The Smoke Fellas are gonna be having some interesting things going on tomorrow. So check that out. Yeah, so it's all right there for you, anytime, anywhere you want.
Yeah, so we will provide. And don't forget, you can follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And one more again, as the kids would say. We'd like to thank Mr. John Zaghloul from Sports Talk Chicago. He was great hopping on with us, talking Chicago sports and how he got started in this business. You go follow him at John Z Sports. That's JONZ Sports on the Twitter and the IG, and John Zaghloul on Facebook. And you can subscribe to the Sports Talk Chicago podcast wherever you get your podcasts, including here on YouTube. Just type in Sports Talk Chicago. It's right there. Subscribe to that channel and watch and listen to his great content.
Right. Of course, you can catch us. Also same thing anytime, anywhere you want. So you don't have to watch them, listen to them live, but you can always go back to the YouTube channel, just like with us. You can go back to the YouTube channel and touch also on War Media too. So it's all right there for us as well.
Exactly.
Right. So enjoy the football. I mean, well, not football. I guess I'm sure there's a XFL going on right now. Got a little bit of time here. I know, you got the MLS, you got NWSL, you got WNBA. You guys can watch it if you want to. Check out the US Open this weekend. Of course, you got some great baseball baseball series going on as well. So yeah, so a lot of great sports, coming up through the summer until it's gonna be okay, folks. Yeah, a little bit of time. Fall season's gonna be here before you know it. So
we got less than 2 weeks before Connor Bedard becomes an official member of the Blackhawks, and we have 39 days until training camp.
So we'll be okay, folks. We'll get there. So
yeah.
So for Join the Sports this weekend, for Sid, I'm Lakia, this is Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. We'll see you Monday.
Go Sox, holla!